Okay, I guess it's my cue. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Brennan. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date it was just revealed, but I'll say it anyway. July 18th, 1975. So, yeah, it's 51 years and sounds like a long time. Well, I guess it is a long time, but a very dear friend, a lady friend who's on the call tonight, and we go back to our early days back in Maryland. We came into the program within a few weeks of each other. I came into the program first, but she got sober first, but we're still a few weeks apart. But anyway, she suggested to me a while back that we not think of ourselves as old timers or long timers, but seasoned beginners. And I had never heard that term before, but I love it because thinking of it that way keeps me right size. I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge of anything. I'm not even in charge of me, fortunately. And it keeps the program fresh, keeps it new. I don't know how many times I've read the big book, the 12 and 12, and other books on our shelves, and it's like every night when I go to bed, the big book gremlins sneak in and update all my literature because there's always something new in there, or I get a new perspective on something. But before I get into it too much, I did want to start out with a thank you. And that's a thank you to the Serenity Improvement Group, who I believe was one of the premier groups that sprang, Zoom groups that sprang up when the whole world pretty much went dark. That was I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, late 19, early 20. And a lot of us had to scurry around and learn some new technology skills. I had never even heard of Zoom. Fortunately, when I have technology problems, I borrow my neighbor's 10-year-old, and he comes over and sets things up for me or fixes things or whatever. Amazing. But this group sprang up, and I know that uh, I've heard the name Stephen, and I know we all owe him a great debt, but I suspect that there were a lot of technology wizards working behind the scenes that I'll never know their names, but helped to put all this together because this is something brand new, and I've uh, really, really came to appreciate what happened there. That all of a sudden, when we couldn't go to meetings anymore, not in person, this sprang up. But there was a tremendous plus side to it too. I've been to meetings all over the world. I've been to Scotland and England and Mexico and some Spain, Israel, France. I've heard how it works in Russian, or it might have been a recipe for borscht. I don't know. I don't know Russian, but the tempo seemed about right. So, but anyway, it's been a great experience, and I've made a lot of friends in different places, and I never expected to. and someday, hope to meet in person. So, I'm not going to do like a standard drunk-a-log, I was born in 1947, May 8th, 4:11 a.m. in Inglewood City Hospital, Chicago. No, I'm not going to tell you all about that and give you a blow by blow of my drinking history. And uh, I think what I'm going to talk about tonight is my experience with the steps, and I may do a flashback or two just to illustrate a point. Now, I wish I could tell you that I came into Alcoholics Anonymous on day number one, quit drinking, found God, worked the steps perfectly, and had a lot of happily ever afters. No, none of that happened. I fought this thing so hard, and I fought it so hard it eventually brought me to my knees, and it didn't take all that long. And since I was finally able to do a reasonably good job with step one, because the end of the road for me was a state mental hospital, a lock ward, where I experienced my first day of sobriety, probably since the day I started drinking. And in those days, there were not a lot of options for guys like me. There were not a lot of these, what my first sponsor used to call high class drying out joints, with nice furniture and Michelin chefs and that kind of thing. That sort of thing wasn't available to somebody that was penniless and unemployable and homeless and all that. Um, so I think mainly I'm going to talk about how I learned the steps and I continue to learn today. The kind of people I sponsor today are tend to be people who have been around for a while and maybe have found something missing uh, from their approach to the steps, and they talk to me about it, and we kind of go through them again. Now, my own early approach to the steps was I collected them. I thought they were like, academic achievements or something, like Boy Scout merit badges or something that I would pick up, and boxes I would put a check mark by when I finished it. And, I learned just enough to talk about how great I was doing at meetings when I really wasn't. Yeah, you're around here for a month, and you pick up the vocabulary and the language, and you know the right things to say at meetings, and the things that will get people nodding their heads, and that's what I was looking for. A lot of people nodding their heads at my incredible wisdom, but I was still there's still something blocking me. And I didn't realize that the steps were going to unblock me eventually. And I was loaded with fear. Now, here's where I'm going to give you a little flashback when I first discovered the fear. Despite a not so great childhood, I wound up as what they call a Wunderkind in high school. I had about every achievement that was possible. By the time I was 17, I had a pilot's license. I commanded two Civil Air Patrol squadrons. I wrote a weekly newspaper column on aviation for one of the local rags. We used to call them crab wrappers. I'm from the Chesapeake Bay region, and you wrap your crabs in old newspaper. And The essay I wrote for the college board exams was printed in the New York Times. I had a scholarship to one of the most prestigious universities on the planet. So I had quite a resume. Problem is, I was scared to death because I knew that today's achievements were going to be tomorrow's minimums, and I could not possibly sustain it, and I knew that. But fear not, I was at a party one night and I found the solution. Someone pressed a can in my hands containing 16 ounces of this golden elixir that completely turned me around. It banished the fear. I was confident, I was unafraid. I could talk to girls, which is a very big deal for a teenage boy and something I was not good at. But all of a sudden, I was brilliant at it. I was very persuasive back then, or so I thought. Um, my life from that point on was consisted of 57 Dodge, a couple of six packs, and a girl named Judy. And I thought that was a perfect life. I almost lost a scholarship. My grades slipped, but I had enough in the bank in the academic bank to keep me propped up and follow through on it. But it only took about a year and a half, and I got kicked out of that prestigious school. And the next 10 years were just a string of entry level jobs that became more menial as time goes on until finally I couldn't even do the most basic things to support myself. I was unemployable. And like I said, I wound up in that mental hospital. And after that, went to a halfway house. And I finally surrendered at that point. I'd had it. And I think the point I surrendered was I was sitting in a chair all by myself. And I just thought to myself, I can't do this anymore. All of a sudden, I knew that I was going to die. In fact, I was so sure of it, I believed I was not going to see another sunrise. And I feel that way about it today. I still believe that if something had not intervened at the supernatural level, I had no further to go. I'd probably be in an unmarked grave somewhere, and with weeds and kudzu growing over it, and uh, a meaningless life behind me. But Alcoholics Anonymous changed all that. Gave me a life that had meaning and purpose and something useful. Um, Steps 2 and 3. Now, again, my first foray through the steps was kind of a half-baked, half-assed, however you want to call them. And uh, I discovered that Alcoholics Anonymous has kind of a different slant on mathematics. We say that in life, you get out of it what you put in. But in Alcoholics Anonymous, that isn't true. Half measures of ale is nothing. If I put half in, I get nothing back. I don't get half back. I get nothing. And that's pretty much how it wound up for me. I wound up with 5 years of sobriety and operating on uh, just what I heard at meetings, faking it. And again, I couldn't sustain that any longer. I wound up involved, there was a woman involved, somebody I had no business being involved in that exposed how emotionally unstable I was. And I had a compulsion to drink that really knocked me for a loop. I did a couple things right. I didn't drink, and I made a phone call. Two things totally unnatural to me, totally foreign to me. I wanted to drink. I did not want to make phone calls. So the logical thing was to do the opposite. And it's a good thing I did. I had a sponsor who probably broke a few laws getting to me when he found out what was going on, and sat down, started doing a four-step again. My first four-step was, again, half-baked, half-ass. Didn't want to look at everything. But even before that, even before the four-step, took a look at the second and third steps. Really didn't want to do, didn't want anything to do with them because they smacked of religiosity. That was my take on it. Was not Alcoholics Anonymous' take on it. They were very clear that I could make my own conception of God. And my very Catholic upbringing told me, no, I can't do that. That would probably be a mortal sin or something. And I didn't think I could do that. So I was between a rock and a hard place. But then after that incident of 5 years, I went on, I think, what turned out to be an honest search for God or a higher power. And it didn't come easily. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say it probably took me 20 years to make what I thought was a good start. And I spent a lot of time talking to different people, getting involved in different religions. I made at least 3 attempts to get back with my Catholic upbringings, but that didn't work out very well. And eventually, kind of like when I surrendered to the program, I think what happened was I finally surrendered to God because I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't know where God is. I don't know what God is. And guess what? I still don't. But I think the essence of steps 2 and 3 are to let go and let the higher power express itself to me in a manner of its own choosing. And, since then, I have had, I've run into a lot of people in the program that swear my soul is doomed for all eternity because I'm not doing it their way, or I'm not voting their way, or worshiping their God, or something like that. But I've learned to just kind of shrug that kind of thing off. I was on a retreat once, and the retreat master, a Catholic priest of all things, uh, it made something that really stuck with me. He said, when somebody asks me if I'm saved, I just look at them and I say, of course I'm saved, but you're asking me the wrong question. You should be asking me what I'm doing to grow in my spiritual life. how I'm treating other people, how I'm working the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. Those are the right questions to ask. My first attempt at four-step was, again, it was half-assed and I didn't really get all of it down. But what I did get down, I looked at it, and rather than feeling any kind of relief at all, the only thing that I felt was, okay, I knew I was a loser, but now I've got it in writing. So, what good is this? What good are any of the steps from here on out? And, the fifth step went pretty much the same way. Again, until I reached that 5-year point when I actually learned how to start getting rid of the fear because I knew again that if I didn't, I was going to die. I remember Sandy Beach used to have a thing where he would talk about his experience with the steps and how he fought the steps. And he was talking about, I think, the amends steps, making a list of amends. And he'd say, I'm not going to make any amends. I don't know any amends. And he'd said it was like a loaded revolver at his head. You'd hear a click. And as soon as you heard that click, he'd go, I might make one. And that's kind of the way I approached it. But after that 5-year mark, the fear went away. It didn't completely go away, but one other thing I wanted to say about the four-step. I'm a big believer in literature-based meetings, big book meetings, step meetings, essentially. And there are others. There are meetings on the old 24-hour-a-day book, which was the book we had on our tables when we first came in. I still got mine. I still use it. Uh, but I've been to, I couldn't tell, probably hundreds of meetings on the four-step. And the conclusion I came to one day about all these meetings I'd been to on the four-step is that we of Alcoholics Anonymous do a superb job of terrifying people over these steps. It's all negative, 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 sin, penance, all that. That's why today, when I'm working with other people, anything negative is off the table at our first meeting on the four-step. And we have as many meetings on the four-step as we need. I don't push anybody through the steps on a time limit. Everybody's different and we take as long as we need to do. But I tell them to before our first meeting on it, to make a list of just 5 things that they are good at, that they like about themselves. And of course, most of the time they can't think of anything. I couldn't in the beginning. So I find a couple for them to get them started. But that's what we talk about. We talk about the positives. And here's why. Because that person is still in there. And one of the big purposes of the fourth step is to find our way back to that person. I was surfing the internet one day. I forget what I was looking for, but I came across this site devoted to a Japanese art form called kintsugi. Now, the Japanese are very frugal people, very much into reusing and recycling and repairing. And the art of kintsugi is to take broken pottery and put it back together, but not to hide the cracks. They mix adhesive with precious metals like gold and silver, and platinum, and they put the pieces back together, fit them back together as best they can, and they create something entirely new. And when I read about that, I thought, wow, if that isn't the best description of what we're trying to accomplish in the inventory steps, I don't know what it is, because it occurred to me that we're not only getting back to that person that we were intended to be all along, but we're going for a new creation, something new and better. David 2.0, to be technologically speaking about it. And I really feel that's what happened to me. And I have to keep in mind that the word is inventory. There's no judgment with the word inventory. It's a totally neutral word. It's just what's there, the good and the bad. And of course, there's going to be a lot of bad stuff, and we're going to have to talk about that in the fifth step. But the whole idea there is these bad aspects of myself, these negative things, how did they influence my life? How did they rob me? How did they block me of being the person I could have been, should have been? Uh, Step 6 and 7 have to do with character defects. And eventually they taught me something about character defects, that the things well, they taught me a couple of things, a lot of things. That number one, the things I think of as character defects, or used to think of as character defects, are not really intended to be defects. Fear is not a character defect. Fear is what keeps me from playing in traffic and jumping into a pool to play with the sharks. Fear keeps me from doing that kind of thing. Fear is good. It's when fear becomes something different. How does the big book put it? When I'm paraphrasing, when our instincts uh, far exceed their intended purpose. I think that's how it goes. And that's what happens with fear. Fear becomes paranoia. It keeps me locked up in the house. Or if I do have to leave the house, and I used to do this, I'd look out the peephole first. I'd pull the door open a crack and check for, being a pilot, I know about something called, fighter planes are equipped with something called threat assessment radar, where, the bad guys show up on a scope and, warn you that you ought to take a shot at them right now before they get too close to them. And that was me. I'd leave the house, the threat assessment radar went up and was scanning. I was looking for threats. Okay, so that was fear. Anger is not a character defect. It really isn't. Uh, and as a matter of fact, if I come across things that are inappropriate or damaging and they don't make me angry, there's something wrong with me. See, which that statement in the 12 and 12 about, I'm trying to think, it's escaping me now. Hey, next time I speak, I'm going to have to borrow one of your big book scholars that knows all the pages and everything, or have to take notes ahead of time or something. But it talks, oh yeah, I remember. Whenever we are disturbed, there is something wrong with us. it says. That's always bothered me. And I know that's almost, they say it's a spiritual axiom. I actually looked up spiritual axioms to try to find the list one day. There is no list of spiritual axioms that I could find. So I thought maybe it would be on that list, but I couldn't find a list. Uh, because absolutely believe that when I come across things like people who abuse children and animals and women and the like, if that doesn't make me angry, if that doesn't stir up something in me, there is something wrong with me then. So that's something I've spent many an after meeting hamburger discussion with people because I'm definitely in a majority there. I'm in a majority in a lot of things in the program. That's one of them. Anyway, uh, so if we get rid of character defects, we get rid of the instincts. That's why it's a little misleading to think that God is actually going to remove all my character defects as a result of working these steps. The clue is in the 7-step prayer. My Creator, I'm now willing to have all of me, the good and the bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. And that's for today. Today only. I get a free pass on some of my character defects if they're not useful in the situations that I encounter. So now, steps 8 and 9. Again, I thought this was penance and punishment and all that. I've got to make a list of all these people, and I've got to, go back and make amends and pay back all, money and maybe risk going to prison. And I didn't see anything good about these steps. That's bottom line. So I really didn't want to do much with them, but it's something I missed. Like I said, I go to a lot of literature meetings. It's a good thing I do because I miss a lot of stuff. And one thing I missed the first 1,000 times I read step 8 in the 12 and 12 was this. Steps 8 and 9 are concerned with personal relations. It's the very first line. And the end of the first paragraph, it says, with our newfound knowledge of ourselves, we may develop the best possible relations with every human being we know. That's the purpose of steps 8 and 9. It's not about punishing me. But make no mistake, you're not off the hook. You do have to make the list and you do have to make the amends because we have to examine these relationships. And what we're really doing is creating a template for forming future relationships that are going to be authentic and genuine and loving, hopefully, and actually contribute to the betterment of people. And I want to give you a couple of examples from my own 8th and 9th step experiences. And one of them is something I don't typically talk about at a meeting because it was very disturbing, something that disturbs me to this day. One of the amends I felt compelled to make were to my younger sister, 9 years my junior. We were never very close. I was not much of a power of example as a big brother, that kind of thing, and pretty much ignored her growing up and played a lot of pranks on her, that sort of thing. But anyway, I sat down to make amends with her one night where She was over at my place, and I tried to make the amends, and she listened to me. And she said something that was truly startling to me. She said, "Yeah, maybe that's true, but whenever little sister needed to be defended by her big brother, you were always there. And the reason that disturbs me, that sounds like a good thing, right? And it is. But the problem is, it never happened. It was the way she remembered it. It was the way she had to remember it. She had to have a big brother in her life that always defended her. And that was many, many years ago. And I still think about it almost daily. But it occurred to me right then that I did not have the right to rob her of the way she remembered it. So I had to remain mute about it and think about it ever since. And I try to make my actions today something that my baby sister would be proud of. That's what I learned from that. And boy, is this hour passed fat quickly. Okay. Another one has to do with the aftermath of the immense steps. I'm a retired teacher. I taught middle school social studies, and I remember it was one year we were getting ready to pack up for the holidays, and I was doing some last minute things, entering grades in the grade book, and uh, some lesson plans for maybe the week we came back, that kind of thing. And the most important person to me in the entire school system, then and now, I think the only person that has a true value in the school system was the underpaid and much abused Latina lady that cleaned my classroom every night and got me ready to teach in the morning, in a clean classroom. She worked hard at it. So this Chris, this particular Christmas time, uh, she came into the classroom to clean, and I said, "Hey, Maria, and just wanted to wish you a Merry Christmas and thank you for all your hard work." And I handed her an envelope, and inside the envelope was just a, a gift card to MovieCo. I said, "Why don't you take your husband to the movies and me? And think there's enough left over there for popcorn too, if you want." And her reaction totally astounded me. She burst into tears and she threw her arms around me. And she said, "Mr. Brennan, you have no idea what this means." She said, "Only you and one other teacher in the school ever have anything nice to say to me, or any of the house cleaning staff." She said, "All the other teachers do is complain." I was absolutely astounded. I couldn't believe it. But what it taught me was that you just never know how the smallest act, the smallest thing you can say to somebody can have a life-changing effect on somebody. And I've seen this over and over many times in my life. And oh, we don't have nearly enough time, but I had something else a few years ago that I don't talk about too much because it had aspects of the supernatural in it. And I actually believe that several people's lives were saved only because I felt led to put myself into a situation. Yeah, maybe I'll find some time to talk about it another time. But that was it. And the very last phrase of, or the very last sentence in 12 and 12 of step 8 is, it is the beginning of the end of isolation from our fellows and from God. That to me is one of the most powerful things that I've ever read in literature. And I'm a voracious reader. I've read all the classics and the great writers and some of the pulp fiction writers, and I'll read anything you put in front of me. And I think that's among the most powerful things I've ever read because it described me. Fear isolated me. And I was about to embark on a journey that was going to end that. It's the most powerful thing I've ever read, ever done. My isolation was coming to an end. Um, I got about 2 minutes to get through three more steps. That's not going to happen. But let me just say, I did want to at least give step 11 an honorable mention, and I think maybe next time I talk, I ought to lead with it because it's really key to the whole program. Again, I'm a big reader. I've read dozens and dozens of books on meditation and prayer. And there's one particular Dutch cleric that I like very much, who pretty much devoted his life to meditation and writing about it. It's a man by the name of Henri Nguyen. And he made a statement that I've never forgotten. It was very powerful to me personally. He says, if I do not have a private life with God, then my public life for God cannot bear fruit. So that's absolutely essential. I have to spend time every day in prayer and meditation, and that takes many, many forums. I do a lot of journaling. A lot of AA people are involved in a practice called two-way prayer, which is a journaling exercise and a meditation exercise to go hand in hand. And if you're curious about it, just Google it. Two-way prayer. It was proffered by a Protestant priest by the name of get this, Bill W. Different Bill W. Okay. Just a happy coincidence, and it's based on a lot of the original precepts of the Oxford group. I found it very effective, and I've gotten some startling answers in it from it. Again, steps, well, let me just close with this. Steps 10 and 11 and 12, I frequently hear called maintenance steps. Don't believe it. They are not. They are growth steps. We don't maintain anything in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's about spiritual growth. And I determined a long time ago that, maybe I've been around a while, 51 years is a while, but in terms of what is available to me out there in the spiritual universe, I've only taken a few baby steps into it. And again, that's why this program is always fresh. It's always new. And it's a beautiful way to live. I'm going to close with a very, very short prayer that was taught to me by my sponsor. And he was very big on gratitude. told me to bookends my days with gratitude, and that if I did that, starting with a prayer of gratitude. Incidentally, I don't pray for sobriety anymore. I start my day by thanking God for the sobriety that He already gave me just before I open my eyelids, and end the day with gratitude. And we were sitting at his dining room table one day, and this was a big guy. He had fists about the size of hams. And he took that fist and he said, if you do that, he slammed his fist on the table like that. He said, if you do that, God will not permit you to drink under any circumstances. He got that from his sponsor, who was a Catholic priest. Some of you have heard of Father Joe Martin. So I'm going to close with that, and it goes, it's simple. Father, thank you for everything you've given me. Thank you for everything you've taken from me. Thank you for everything you've left me. And you who have given me so much, grant me one more thing, a grateful heart. So thank you, Kathy, for the invitation. It was very special to me, and God bless you all.